I started a car washing business this morning and business was booming. That's when the police arrived and told me to stop washing people's cars at traffic lights. They've been getting many complaints. And that got me thinking. Good day, you absolute legends. Welcome back to another edition of Update News. Now, today's hot topic is, when is the next major update going to release for No Man's Sky? That is a massive question at the minute that I'm hearing all across the community in a bunch of different Discords, even on Reddit. I've seen that question pop up many times. Well, today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go over all of the latest information regarding that, including looking back at even previous years to when the last updates around this time came out, so we can come up with a very accurate prediction model that should pretty much nail it on the dot. It has done for the last few years. We've done this, so yeah, let's get into today's video. It's going to be a good one. So first things first, ladies and gentlemen, the tools that we're going to be using to make our prediction model is by going over to SteamDB. Now, as you can see right here on the chart, you can see that we are now obviously in May of 2024 and we are expecting an update anytime around the corner. But if we go back very quickly to 2022, you will see that on the same sort of time frame, we had a dip, but then a sudden rise for when the update came out in 2022. And if we look at 2023, which was only last year, then you can see the same sort of thing happen. We have a dip in May and then a boost going into June. So this is an excellent place to start. So we know that between the dates of May and June, now it looks like in this forecast here, May is usually a quiet period, but when it does eventually tick over to June, and it's usually virtually at the very beginning of June, that's when the update will drop. So looking at my calendar right here, you can see that we only have 10 days left until the end of May. And then after that will be the 1st of June, which is fantastic because any point after the 1st of June, and usually right at the very beginning, as we've seen with SteamDB, that's when the updates will drop. So the next thing we're going to do to try and make our predictions model just that little bit more accurate, we're going to go over to normanskyresources.com. I highly recommend you use it. It's a fantastic website and it gives us the exact dates of when every update ever released came out. So we can see that the Singularity update came out on the 7th of June last year, which is absolutely fantastic. So there we go, Singularity, 7th of June 2023. So we got that now as a good start, but let's look back to the previous year, so for 2022. Now we can see that Endurance came out in July last year. But if we go back a little bit further in 2021, we can see that Prisms came out on the 2nd of June in 2021. So it seems to fluctuate quite wildly between June and July. And if we have a look at Desolation, that came out the 17th of July. Interesting. But what does all this information mean if we try and boil it down? Well, one of the first things I've noticed there was a pattern that every year, one year it will be June for an update, and then the next year will be July. So it goes July, June, July, June. Now this year, if by going off the pattern alone on the No Man's Sky resource, where it has every single day, then technically this year should be a skip year. So meaning that we're not actually going to be expecting an update until July, going off the pattern of what we've just seen. But that now conflicts with the information that we've just seen on SteamDB, where we've seen the rises and the fall between every single year between May and June. So what's going on with that? Well, what SteamDB doesn't account for is things like expeditions. It doesn't account for example, if No Man's Sky suddenly gets a publicity surge, meaning new players will interact with the game because they've seen it in a news article, or maybe a big YouTuber has started speaking about No Man's Sky and more people rush on because of that. That can fluctuate the timeline quite substantially. It can swing it any way it wants. So even though SteamDB is excellent, it doesn't account for everything. So with the information we have now gathered, we can make two predictions with this prediction model. The first prediction is for June. If it was to be released in June, the dates of which it will be released, going off previous years, is anywhere between the 2nd and the 3rd. So it is very narrowed down. Between the 2nd and the 3rd of June is when we can expect an update. However, if it doesn't happen for June, it will be July. And that, ladies and gentlemen, will be between the dates of the 17th and the 20th of July. Again, going from previous history and looking at the charts, that's when usually we will see a major update for the July dates. But this year has been completely different to anything that we've known of previous years. Talk about throwing a spanner in the works with predictions. It's one of those where, because of this year, and since basically we've had Orbital, it's gone against the grain of any previous year that we have ever known in No Man's Sky. And we do know from the Game Awards, Mr. Murray did say that this year for No Man's Sky was going to be the biggest year today. And that's, I think, a little bit of foreshadowing, because they're going to try and get No Man's Sky to a more golden state, a more playable state, a more envisioned state to what they want. And basically, Hello Games are going to try and finish up No Man's Sky quite rapidly now, especially with Light No Fire just around the corner. They're going to want to implement everything they want to implement, and this is basically their time to do it now, because how much time they'll have after when Light No Fire releases is up for debate, and that's a whole new video and a whole new kettle of fish to tackle for this video here today. But basically, when Light No Fire comes out, it's going to really stretch the small team even further, and I think that's why Mr. Murray did say personally, on a personal note, this is why I did and truly think when Mr. Murray went on stage and he said that basically, you know, this is going to be the biggest year. And I think it's just because the team is so small and they were going to try and get everything that they can, like included all their ideas finished into No Man's Sky before next year when it's touted that Light No Fire is going to come out. So that's what I think, and going off the patterns, it's going to be really hard, even with the predictions model, even by looking back at previous updates, it's going to be very, very difficult to give an exact timeline, because Orbital, for example, was a complete surprise to the No Man's Sky community. When Orbital came out, we wasn't expecting that really until about this time. Well, I mean, it was around about now and again June when we was expecting to have Orbital, but then, you know what, we were surprised months in advance with Orbital, and Orbital didn't even come with an expedition, which a lot of people was thinking about. So maybe in June we'll get an expedition for Orbital, and then in July, looking at how this could just be completely like against the grain at the minute, then maybe in July, then we'll get the next big update. I mean, it could just swing wildly in so many ways, and yes, we can look back at previous history like today's video and try and get an absolute definitive answer. But just with how volatile it is at the minute with the updates and what Hello Games have got planned for the rest of this year and what they got planned for next year, it makes predicting things like this extremely difficult. So do please take everything I've said in today's video not as gospel. It is a little bit of grain of salt included in that, but as more of a guideline. And that's as best as anybody can give you with this. It is a guideline, and if anything was to happen, it's gonna happen probably between those dates. But if it doesn't happen, ladies and gentlemen, at the same time, I won't be surprised. And you shouldn't be either, because it's an unprecedented year so far. Hello Games have a lot of things on the plate that they are trying to sort out. So yeah, I mean, obviously an update will happen eventually, but when that will happen, I don't know. But you know what? Me personally, I'm here for the ride. I'm here for the enjoyment, and No Man's Sky right now is personally the best that it's ever been. Okay, sorry about the rant there, ladies and gentlemen. I got a little bit off script, but I just wanted to really try and emphasize, at the end of the day, No Man's Sky, from when it first came out to where it is today, is just absolutely impossibly fantastic. I mean, nobody, when the game released, ever thought the game could have reached the same heights as we now know No Man's Sky today. The team have put in so much effort, and it's absolutely amazing to see. So, you know, that's what this is mainly about, really, guys. You know what? Let's just enjoy the game for what we've got, and whatever happens this year is whatever happens this year. I think No Man's Sky currently, yeah, there are a few things that need to be done. There are a few things that need to be tweaked, but is any game ever going to be 100% perfect? No. But Norman Sky, in my opinion, has probably come the closest yet. It definitely has. But there we go, ladies and gentlemen. A bit off script there, but that's how I feel about it. That's the predictions model for you. Let me know in the comment section down below. Do you agree with my findings today? Do you agree with my assessment of the updates? Do you think that's when, if there was going to be an update, they would essentially release it? Let me know. Comment section down below. You know what to do. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's everything from me here today. And as always, my name is Professor Cynical, and I'll catch you all again in the next one. Bye for now.